I used to think I was good at disappearing. Nights made it easy. I took the job because it paid on time and asked nothing of me but vigilance, which felt like a fair trade for not having to be a person. The monitoring room had no windows and smelled faintly of warm plastic. The fluorescence hummed a note that my ears learned before my mouth learned the company rules. Coffee cooled beside the keyboard. My badge lived on a lanyard like a small apology. I signed in, adjusted the chair, and let the screens fill my vision until I forgot I had eyes. They called it security. To me, it was penance. Rows of feeds from research wings and empty corridors. Labs with stainless tables that reflected light like frozen water. Storage cages, loading docks. The silent theater of nothing happening. The building slept. I took attendance for its dreams. I wrote hourly notes in a calm hand. I preferred rules to feelings. Feelings had no edges. Years earlier, on a different night, a voice had called me from a stairwell phone I wasn't assigned to monitor. I heard it anyway through the bleed of a shared line. A woman, breathless. Is someone there? I stared at the clock and let the minute hand pass. It wasn't my station. I told myself that mattered. By morning, the incident was a sealed file with a stamped outcome. I wasn't named, which was worse. Guilt works best when it has somewhere quiet to sit, so I sat with it. I learned the rhythms of refrigeration units, the way cameras bloom when a moth lands too close, the metallic tick when the HVAC shifts into a softer heartbeat. Silence had depths. Some nights I felt it breathe. I counted that as imagination, the way a diver counts the flick of a fish he can't prove later. At Orutung 14 most nights, the building seemed to remember it had bones. Somewhere in the ductwork, metal settled with a sigh. That was the hour I wrote the cleanest notes. That was the hour I stopped thinking of the woman's voice. One night, the red recording light over monitor 12 pulsed twice, as if it understood me. Then it held steady, and the room returned to its usual nothing, bright and empty as an apology left on a table. The first odd thing was so small I almost missed it. Monitor 6, usually fixed on an empty loading bay, flickered with a faint motion blur, like the lens was exhaling. I replayed the feed, but there was nothing. Just the dim geometry of concrete, the painted safety lines, the unlit exit sign that never worked. I logged it anyway, more out of superstition than protocol. The report looked harmless on paper, minor interference, non-persistent. But the moment I typed it, hum in the room deepened, as if the system had heard me name it. By the third night, the interference became a rhythm. Every time I looked away, one camera would twitch, catching some movement too late for me to confirm. The screens weren't numbered in sequence. They pulsed at random, like a pattern trying to be born. I told myself it was heat, wiring, vibration. I told myself many things that sounded like science but felt like prayer. At 0103, monitor 4 showed something new. The hallway it captured was unfamiliar, narrower, darker, with a wet sheen on the floor as if freshly washed. I zoomed the feed, expecting a reflection, but there was no signage, no timestamp, no door tags. It shouldn't have been part of our network. I leaned closer. For a moment, I thought I saw a figure standing far down the corridor, facing away from the camera. But when I blinked, the frame was empty again. I checked the routing software. No record of additional feeds, no open IPs, nothing. I ran diagnostics. All green. I thought about calling maintenance, but the silence between screens felt delicate, like glass. I didn't want to break it. When I returned from the restroom, every monitor had reset to the default grid, except one. Monitor 4 stayed black. A faint red light pulsed in its corner, steady as a heartbeat. I moved closer, thinking the screen was dead. But as I reached for the power button, the image bloomed back on. That same unmarked corridor, same wet floor. This time the camera was closer to the ground, tilted slightly, as if whoever held it was crawling. I stared until my eyes burned. Then the audio system, something I'd never used, crackled once, and through the static came a slow, deliberate sound. Breathing, not mine. I muted the channel and waited. The breathing stopped. The air conditioning resumed its careful hum. The clock on the wall ticked past 2 a.m., and nothing else moved. But from that night on, every time I turned my chair, I could feel the monitors behind me watching back, like an audience waiting for its cue. If stories like this find you when you need them, Don't disappear. Subscribe to the channel and stay close. I have more truths to share. After that night, I started talking to the screens. Just a word here and there. You there? Show me again. It felt foolish, but the silence between replies began to shape something almost human. The unknown feed appeared at different hours now, always monitor 4. Always showing places I didn't recognize. A stairwell that bent the wrong way, an office where papers floated slightly above the desk, as if caught in slow water. Sometimes, for a single frame, I thought I saw myself reflected in the dark glass of a door that wasn't mine. The technicians found nothing wrong. They checked cables, ran resets, shrugged. Ghost data, one of them said, laughing. When they left, the laughter stayed behind like static in my teeth. That week, I began to dream in monochrome. I'd wake with the taste of metal, half expecting the hum of the monitors to still be in the room. The difference between waking and watching thinned until I couldn't tell which came first. The woman's voice from years ago returned in fragments. Is someone there? I hadn't heard her in so long that I almost felt relief. The guilt that once gnawed quietly began to move with purpose, threading itself through every line of static on the screens. One night, the feed showed a hallway identical to ours, but wrong in small surgical ways. The angles leaned inward, the ceiling lamps flickered in rhythms that matched my heartbeat. Then I noticed a desk, my desk, centered perfectly in the frame. The camera's perspective was slightly higher, as if mounted above where I sat. I froze. On screen, a man sat in my chair, head bowed. His posture was mine, even the way one sleeve folded against the wrist. I should have looked away, but I didn't. The man raised his head, slow, uncertain, and stared directly into the lens. My lens. The eyes were hollowed by light, but I could feel their intent. It wasn't surprise. It was recognition. The red recording light over my real monitor 4 began to blink faster, syncing with my pulse. I whispered, "Who are you?" The figure tilted his head, listening. Then the feed cut to black, and in the reflection of the blank screen, my own face stared back, but my mouth was still moving, though I hadn't spoken. I killed the power to the monitors. The hum died instantly, leaving the air too quiet, too aware. Somewhere deep in the building, a door clicked open on its own. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was waiting. If this story touched something inside you, leave a not for me, but for the next person who's looking for a reason to stay. I stopped pretending it was technical. Whatever those cameras were showing me, they had learned my habits, my breathing, my silence, my need to understand. The feed began to appear even when the system was unplugged. The screen stayed dark until I sat down. Then, like obedient eyes, they opened. Always monitor. 4 first, then the others followed, blooming to life one by one. Each showed a version of the facility, warped, empty, echoing with a thin light that never reached the corners. It was me in all of them, watching myself from impossible angles. A man repeating the same movements I made seconds later. Sometimes he moved first, as if I were the reflection. That night, the voice came through the static again, the one I had ignored years ago. Only this time, it wasn't asking for help. It whispered my name. Thomas. Hearing it was like touching something electric inside my chest. I turned the audio off, but the voice continued, muffled beneath the hum of the machines. I understood then. The cameras weren't windows. They were mirrors, stretched thin across time. Every ignored call, every moment I chose observation over compassion, it was being played back to me, frame by frame, from the other side. The man on the screen wasn't haunting me. He was the part of me that refused to look away. I stood, trembling, and walked to the main console. The feeds brightened. My double mirrored each step. The breathing in the speakers matched my own until it became impossible to tell which was leading. I pressed my hand against the glass of monitor 4. He did the same. A faint warmth radiated through the screen as if the barrier were alive. The room dimmed around us. The fluorescent hum faded to a single low tone. A pulse. I whispered, "I'm sorry." The image flickered violently, light bursting in white waves until everything dissolved into static. For a heartbeat, I saw her again. The woman from the call, standing behind him. She looked at me with something between sorrow and release. Then the feed went still. When the lights returned, the monitors were dead. The clock on the wall had stopped at 2:14, the hour I used to feel most awake. My reflection in the black screen stared back, steady, silent, and for the first time, I didn't trust that it would stop when I did. It's been 9 years since that night. I haven't worked another security job since, though I still wake at 2:14 without an alarm, staring at the ceiling as if a light is waiting to turn on. The desert facility was shut down months after I left. They said there was a systems failure, that the recordings were irretrievable. But I know the truth. Nothing failed. It was finished. Whatever those cameras wanted me to see, I saw it. And once seen, it doesn't let you go. I moved to a small town near the coast. I fix radios now. Devices that hum, crackle, and sometimes catch whispers from nowhere. The irony isn't lost on me. Some nights, when the wind leans against the windows, I power up one of the old monitors I kept. Not out of curiosity, out of respect. The screen glows a soft gray before settling into static. If I listen long enough, I can hear breathing behind it. Calm, patient. It matches mine, though slightly delayed, as if echoing across distance or time. I tell myself it's memory playing tricks, that I've built my own mythology to survive. But there are moments, brief, tender ones, when I feel watched not with malice, but with understanding. Something on the other side is keeping vigil for me, as I once did for it. Maybe that's what forgiveness feels like. Recognition without accusation. I never spoke to anyone about the woman's voice or the man in the feed. Some truths can't survive being told out loud. They dissolve into metaphor, and maybe that's mercy. Still, I've come to believe that what I witnessed wasn't another world at all. It was ours, stripped of excuses, shown raw. Every act of looking creates a reflection, and every reflection asks a question. Are you seeing, or are you hiding? I keep the room dim. The monitor hums softly beside me as I write this. It's not plugged in anymore, but sometimes faint light blooms from the glass, enough to trace the outline of a figure seated on the other side, his posture familiar, his stillness patient. I never turn to face him fully. I've learned that recognition has its own gravity, and once you look directly, you fall in. So I let him sit there, watching me watch myself. Between us, the static breathes, steady as forgiveness. It never followed me home. It was already here. If stories like this find you when you need them, don't disappear. Subscribe to the channel and stay close. I have more truths to share.